The moment Ethan wrapped his arms around me, my heart forgot how to beat normally. The cool New York night surrounded us. City lights sparkled below. The rooftop was almost empty now. Only a few guests remained. But I couldn't see anyone except him. His arms. His smile. His eyes. The way he looked at me. Like I was the most important person in the world. I had never experienced anything like it. Not once. Not ever. Emma. His voice was barely above a whisper. Yet somehow it reached every corner of my heart. Yes. A soft smile appeared on his lips. I don't want tonight to end. My pulse raced. Neither did I. But I was too afraid to say it. Because men like Ethan Blackwood didn't stay. Men like him belonged to another world. A world filled with luxury. Private jets. $1 million deals. Supermodels. Well, I was just a nurse. A woman who worked double shifts to pay rent. A woman whose biggest luxury was ordering takeout on Friday nights. We were complete opposites. And yet, standing in his arms felt strangely natural. Like we'd been searching for each other our entire lives. You're thinking too much. I blinked. What? He laughed softly. That deep laugh sent butterflies through my stomach. Every time you're nervous, you bite your lower lip. I immediately stopped. His smile grew wider. Cute. Heat rushed into my cheeks. You notice everything, don't you? Only when it comes to you. My heart nearly exploded. How was this man real? For another hour we talked. About everything. My dreams. His childhood. His fears. His future. The strange thing was that Ethan never acted like a billionaire. There was no arrogance. No ego. No superiority. Just kindness. Warmth. And sincerity. The more we talked, the more impossible it became not to fall for him. Near 1 a.m, the event finally ended. Guests began leaving. Valets brought luxury cars to the entrance. The night was coming to an end, and suddenly I felt sad, because I wasn't ready to say goodbye. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Let me drive you home. I hesitated. Ethan. Please. His eyes met mine. I just want a few more minutes with you. My heart melted. How could I say no? 20 minutes later. We were sitting inside his black Rolls-Royce. Soft music played quietly. The city passed outside the windows. Neither of us wanted the drive to end. You know what's funny? Ethan asked. What? I attend hundreds of events every year. Okay. I usually forget everyone's name before I get home. I laughed. That's terrible. It is. He smiled. But somehow I knew I'd never forget yours. My cheeks immediately warmed. I looked away, trying to hide my smile. The car finally stopped outside my apartment building. A very ordinary building. Nothing luxurious. Nothing impressive. Yet Ethan looked at it as if it were a palace. Because it belonged to me. I turned toward him. Thank you for tonight. His eyes softened. No. He shook his head. Thank you. Neither of us moved. Neither wanted the moment to end. Then Ethan reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, and handed it to me. His personal number was written on the back. Call me tomorrow. I smiled. Maybe. He raised an eyebrow. Maybe. I laughed. I have to make you work a little. His eyes sparkled. Oh, so that's how it's going to be? Absolutely. For the first time all evening he looked nervous. And somehow that made him even more attractive. Before leaving the car I leaned forward, placed a quick kiss on his cheek. A simple kiss. Nothing more. Yet Ethan froze completely. His eyes widened, and I couldn't stop smiling. Good night, Mr. Billionaire. Then I stepped out of the car. As I walked toward my building I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in years, I felt excited about tomorrow. Because tomorrow meant seeing Ethan again. And deep inside, something told me this wasn't the beginning of a simple romance. This was the beginning of a love story that would change both our lives forever. The next morning I woke up smiling. For a few seconds I didn't remember why. Then I saw the business card on my nightstand. Ethan Blackwood. And suddenly everything came rushing back. The rooftop. The conversation. The way he looked at me. The kiss on his cheek before I left. A smile spread across my face. I felt like a teenager again. Unfortunately, reality arrived quickly. My shift started at 7 a.m. By 7:30, I was already rushing through hospital hallways, checking patients, reviewing charts, helping doctors, the usual chaos. For a few hours, I managed to keep my mind focused on work. But every now and then, I found myself thinking about Ethan, wondering if he was thinking about me too. Around noon, I entered the nurse's station. My best friend Sarah immediately noticed my smile. Okay. She folded her arms. Who is he? I nearly dropped my coffee. What? Don't play innocent. She grinned. You look like someone who spent all night dreaming about a man. My face turned red. Before I could answer, another nurse approached. Emma, someone's here to see you. I frowned. Who? She smiled suspiciously. Go look. Confused, I walked toward the hospital lobby. The moment I entered, I stopped. Completely. Ethan was standing there, holding a bouquet of white roses. My heart skipped a beat. He looked impossibly handsome. Dark blue suit. Perfect smile. Those blue eyes immediately found mine. And suddenly I forgot there were hundreds of people around us. Hi. His voice made my knees weak. I laughed nervously. What are you doing here? He stepped closer, trying to see a beautiful nurse. My heart nearly exploded. Several nurses behind me gasped. One of them whispered, "Oh my God, that's Ethan Blackwood." Another nearly fainted. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Ethan handed me the flowers. For you. I stared at them. Nobody had ever brought me flowers at work. Nobody. They're beautiful. His smile softened. They're not as beautiful as you. I couldn't stop blushing. For a moment we simply stood there smiling like two idiots. Neither of us cared. I know you're working. Ethan glanced at his watch. But can I take you to dinner tonight? My heart raced. A real date. A very real date. I bit my lip, trying not to smile too much. I'd like that. His eyes lit up instantly, and somehow seeing him happy made me happy too. Good. He stepped closer. Then I'll pick you up at 7. Before leaving, he leaned down slightly and whispered, "Try not to miss me too much." I laughed. No promises. The rest of my shift felt endless. Every minute moved slower than the last. For the first time in my life, I was actually excited for a date. At exactly 7 o'clock, a black Rolls-Royce stopped outside my apartment. My heart raced. Tonight mattered. More than I wanted to admit. I wore a simple navy blue dress. Nothing extravagant. Nothing expensive. Yet when Ethan saw me, he completely froze. For several seconds he simply stared, like he'd forgotten how to speak. Finally he smiled. Wow. I laughed nervously. What? His eyes traveled over my face. You look incredible. Heat rushed to my cheeks. The restaurant overlooked the Hudson River. Candles flickered on every table. Soft music played in the background. The atmosphere felt magical. For hours we talked, and laughed, and learned more about each other. Every minute made me like him more, which was becoming dangerous, as I was already falling hard. Halfway through dinner, Ethan reached across the table. His fingers gently touched mine. The simple gesture sent butterflies through my stomach. Emma. His voice was softer now, more intimate. Can I ask you something? Of course. His eyes met mine. When was the last time someone made you feel special? The question caught me off guard. I looked down. Honestly, I couldn't remember. Not really. Ethan seemed to understand immediately, because his expression changed. Something sad flashed across his face. Then he squeezed my hand gently. "You deserve to feel special every day." My heart melted. That moment, I realized I was in trouble, because this wasn't a crush anymore. And it wasn't simple attraction. I was falling in love with him. Suddenly a woman's voice interrupted us. "Ethan." The smile disappeared from his face instantly. I turned. A stunning blonde woman stood nearby. Designer dress. Perfect makeup. Cold eyes. The way she looked at Ethan told me everything. She knew him very well. "Ethan," she repeated. What a surprise. The atmosphere immediately changed. For the first time all evening, I saw tension in Ethan's eyes. And something told me this woman was about to become a problem. The moment the blonde woman appeared beside our table, I felt the atmosphere change. Just seconds earlier, Ethan had been smiling, relaxed, happy. Now his jaw tightened. His eyes turned cold. And for the first time since meeting him, he looked uncomfortable. The woman crossed her arms. A confident smile appeared on her face. "You're not going to introduce me?" Ethan took a slow breath. "Emma, this is Victoria." My stomach sank. Something about her felt dangerous. Victoria's eyes moved toward me. She gave me a polite smile. But there was nothing friendly about it. Felt more like a warning. "And who is this?" she asked, even though she already seemed to know. Before I could answer, Ethan spoke. "Emma is my date." The smile instantly disappeared from Victoria's face. For a brief moment, I saw jealousy in her eyes. Real jealousy. "Oh." She forced another smile. "I didn't realize you had moved on so quickly." Moved on. My heart skipped. Ethan's expression hardened. "Victoria." His tone carried a warning, but she ignored it. Instead, she looked directly at me. "We used to be engaged." My entire body froze. Engaged? I looked at Ethan. He didn't deny it. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The information hit me harder than I expected. Victoria smiled slightly, as if she enjoyed seeing my reaction. Then she leaned closer. "You seem sweet, Emma." Her eyes narrowed. "Just be careful." Ethan stood immediately. "That's enough." The coldness in his voice surprised even me. Victoria stared at him for several seconds, then laughed softly. "Still protecting everyone except yourself." Without another word, she walked away, leaving silence behind. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, I looked at Ethan. "Your fiancé?" He closed his eyes briefly, clearly frustrated. "Former fiancé." I nodded slowly, trying to process everything. "You never mentioned her." His face softened. "Because I didn't want tonight to be about my past." I looked down. Part of me understood. Part of me felt hurt. Ethan immediately noticed. "Emma." His voice became gentle again. "I wasn't hiding her." "Then why didn't you tell me?" He sighed. "Because talking about Victoria reminds me of one of the worst periods of my life." For the first time, I saw genuine pain in his eyes, and suddenly my frustration faded. "Ethan." He reached for my hand. 3 years ago, I thought I was going to marry her. His voice grew quieter. "I loved her." Those words hurt more than they should have. Maybe because I was already falling for him. Maybe because hearing him talk about loving another woman made my chest ache. But she didn't love me. I looked up. What happened? A bitter smile appeared on his face. "She loved my money." My heart broke a little. On the day we were supposed to announce our wedding. He laughed softly, without humor. "I found out she was secretly seeing someone else." I stared at him, shocked. The entire relationship was a lie. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I couldn't imagine how painful that must have been. Then something unexpected happened. Without thinking, I moved my chair closer. and wrapped my arms around him. A simple hug. Nothing dramatic. Nothing planned. Yet Ethan froze completely, as if nobody had comforted him in a very long time. Slowly, very slowly, his arms wrapped around me too, and suddenly I felt him relax, like a man carrying a heavy burden finally finding peace. "It's okay," I whispered. For several seconds he said nothing. Then his voice came quietly against my hair. "It is now." My heart melted. We stayed like that for a moment, not caring who was watching, not caring about the restaurant, just holding each other, and somehow felt more intimate than a kiss. When we finally pulled apart, Ethan looked at me differently, his eyes softer, warmer, more vulnerable. "Thank you." I smiled. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes." He squeezed my hand gently. "You have no idea how much I needed that." My heart raced again, because in that moment, I realized something. Ethan Blackwood wasn't just a billionaire. He wasn't just handsome. He wasn't just successful. Underneath everything, he was lonely. And somehow, I was becoming the person who understood him. As the evening ended, Ethan walked me home. The city lights glowed around us. The streets were quiet. Neither of us wanted the night to end. When we reached my apartment building, we stopped and just stood there, looking at each other. The tension between us returned, stronger than ever. His eyes moved briefly toward my lips. My pulse exploded. "Emma." "Yes." A slow smile appeared on his face. "I think meeting you might be the best thing that's happened to me in years." My heart skipped, and before I could answer, he gently cupped my face, then leaned forward and kissed me. Soft, slow, tender. The world disappeared. Only Ethan remained. And for the first time, the kiss felt like the beginning of something much bigger. Something neither of us could stop anymore. The moment Ethan kissed me, everything else disappeared. The city, the noise, the traffic, the world itself. Nothing existed except us. His hand rested gently against my cheek while my heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. When the kiss finally ended, neither of us moved away. We simply stood there, looking into each other's eyes, smiling like two people who had finally found what they had been searching for. "Emma." His voice was soft, almost nervous, which surprised me. A man like Ethan Blackwood wasn't supposed to get nervous. Yet somehow, I made him nervous, and I loved that. "Yes," I whispered. He took a deep breath, then smiled. "I don't want to play games." I laughed softly. "Good." His eyes sparkled. "I don't want to date 5 other women." That's reassuring. "I don't want casual relationships." My heart skipped. "And I definitely don't want to spend another day pretending I'm not completely crazy about you." I couldn't stop smiling. "Ethan." He stepped closer. "Emma Parker." For a moment he looked almost shy. "Will you be my girlfriend?" My heart melted instantly. There wasn't a single doubt in my mind. Not one. "Yes." His smile became even bigger. "Yes. Yes." Before I could say anything else, he wrapped me in his arms and lifted me slightly off the ground. I laughed, and for the first time in years, I felt completely happy. 2 weeks later, the following days felt like a dream. Every morning I woke up to a good morning text from Ethan. Every night ended with a phone call. Whenever my shift became stressful, flowers magically appeared at the nurse's station. The entire hospital knew about him, and unfortunately, they never let me forget it. "Nurse Emma," Sarah teased one afternoon, "how's your billionaire boyfriend?" I rolled my eyes, but secretly, I loved hearing those words, because Ethan wasn't just my boyfriend anymore. He was becoming my best friend, the person I wanted to tell everything, the person I missed whenever he wasn't around. The person who made every ordinary day feel special. The weekend trip. One Friday evening, Ethan picked me up after work. The moment I got into the car, I noticed his smile. A very suspicious smile. What? He laughed. Pack a bag. I blinked. What? Pack a bag. Ethan. Trust me. I narrowed my eyes. Should I be worried? His smile widened. Not at all. 3 hours later, I stood speechless. A breathtaking lake stretched before us. A beautiful luxury cabin sat beside the water. Mountains surrounded everything. It looked like something from a movie. Ethan. He looked nervous. You like it? I turned toward him, then threw my arms around his neck. I love it. The relief on his face was adorable. That night, we sat beside a fire outside the cabin. The stars above us looked endless. The lake reflected moonlight like silver glass. And somehow, everything felt perfect. Ethan sat beside me, his arm around my shoulders, my head resting against him. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Sometimes silence feels uncomfortable. With Ethan, it felt peaceful, comfortable, like home. Finally, he broke the silence. You know what scares me? I looked up. What? For the first time, uncertainty appeared in his eyes. Losing this. My heart tightened. What do you mean? He looked at me. Really looked at me. You. My breath caught. Ethan. I spent years building companies. His voice grew quieter. Making money. Winning. But none of that ever made me feel the way you do. My eyes filled with emotion, because I knew he meant every word. I've never felt this way before. The sincerity in his voice made my heart ache. In the best possible way. Slowly I reached for his hand and intertwined our fingers. You won't lose me. A smile appeared on his face. The kind of smile that only comes from genuine happiness. The next morning, I woke up before Ethan. Sunlight filled the cabin. Everything felt peaceful, perfect, until my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Sarah. I answered immediately. Hey. But the moment I heard her voice, my stomach dropped. Emma. She sounded worried. Very worried. What happened? There was a brief silence. Then she spoke. I think you need to see the news. My heart immediately started racing. What news? Another pause. Then Sarah said the words that changed everything. It's about Ethan. I sat up instantly, fear spreading through my chest. What about Ethan? And then, Sarah told me something I never expected to hear. Something that threatened to destroy the perfect life we had just begun building together. The moment Sarah finished speaking, my entire body went cold. I sat up in bed so quickly that Ethan stirred beside me. The peaceful weekend, the beautiful cabin, the happiness we'd been living in for the past few weeks, suddenly felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. Emma. Sarah's voice trembled through the phone. You need to look at the news right now. My hand shook as I opened my phone. A notification immediately appeared. Then another. And another. Every major news outlet was reporting the same story. Blackwood Corporation under investigation. Billionaire Ethan Blackwood faces serious accusations. Company scandal shocks Wall Street. My heart dropped. What is this? I whispered. Sarah sighed. Nobody knows if it's true yet. I could barely breathe. The headlines were everywhere. Accusations. Rumors. Anonymous sources. Speculation. And Ethan's picture was on every screen. The man I loved. The man who had become the most important person in my life. Suddenly the bedroom door opened. Ethan entered holding 2 cups of coffee. The moment he saw my face, his smile disappeared. He knew. Immediately. You saw it. It wasn't a question. I slowly nodded. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Then Ethan placed the coffee down and sat beside me. His expression looked tired, as if he'd been carrying this burden alone for a long time. Emma. I looked at him. Tell me the truth. His eyes met mine, and I saw something I had never seen before. Fear. Not fear for his company, not fear for his money, fear of losing me. It's not true. His voice was calm, steady. I swear to you. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But the headlines were everywhere. The accusations sounded serious. And doubt is a dangerous thing. It can sneak into even the strongest relationships. I don't understand. Ethan took a deep breath. Someone inside the company is trying to destroy me. My heart raced. What do you mean? He stood and walked toward the window. The board wants control. His voice grew darker. There are people who would make billions if I stepped down. I stared at him. You think someone created this scandal? He nodded. Yes. For the first time since meeting him, I saw the pressure he lived under every day. The responsibility. The politics. The enemies. Being a billionaire wasn't as glamorous as people imagined. It came with targets on your back. And Ethan had plenty of enemies. Back in New York, the situation became worse. Much worse. Within days, reporters surrounded Blackwood Corporation. Television channels discussed Ethan nonstop. Social media exploded. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a theory. And somehow, I got dragged into the chaos too. One afternoon, I left the hospital after a 12-hour shift. Immediately, cameras surrounded me. Emma, do you believe Ethan Blackwood is guilty? Are you still dating him? Did he lie to you? My heart pounded. I had never experienced anything like this. Never. The questions came from every direction. The cameras, the microphones, the flashing lights. Felt overwhelming, terrifying. Then suddenly, a black SUV stopped beside me. The door opened, and Ethan stepped out. Without hesitation, he walked directly toward me, ignoring the reporters, ignoring the cameras, ignoring everyone. His only concern was me. Are you okay? I nodded, but tears were already forming in my eyes. The last few days had been exhausting. And seeing him there, seeing him choose me despite everything happening, almost broke me emotionally. Without thinking, I threw my arms around him. The cameras immediately exploded. Flash after flash after flash. But I didn't care. Fun. Neither did Ethan. He held me tightly, protectively, like he was afraid someone might take me away. That night, we sat together in his penthouse. The city lights glowing beyond the glass walls. Neither of us touched our dinner. Neither of us had an appetite. Finally, Ethan spoke. Emma. I looked up. His eyes looked exhausted. The kind of exhausted that comes from fighting battles every day. If this gets worse. My stomach tightened. What? His voice grew quieter. You should leave. The words hit me like a slap. What? You deserve peace. His eyes filled with sadness. You deserve a normal life. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ethan. I'm serious. No. He blinked. No. I stood, then walked directly toward him, and placed my hands on his face. No. My voice shook with emotion. Do you really think I walk away the moment life becomes difficult? His eyes widened. Emma. I don't care about the headlines. My voice broke. I don't care about your money. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I care about you. For several seconds, Ethan simply stared at me, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Then suddenly, he pulled me into his arms, holding me tighter than ever before. And for the first time in days, I felt him relax, just a little, because he finally knew something important. No matter what happened, he wasn't facing it alone. 1 week later, the investigation finally revealed new evidence. Evidence nobody expected. Evidence that changed everything. The person responsible for the scandal, the person secretly working against Ethan, was someone from his past. Someone we both knew. someone who had been waiting for revenge. And when I learned their identity, my blood ran cold, because the name was Victoria. The moment I heard Victoria's name, I felt my stomach drop. I stared at the investigation report in disbelief. "No," I whispered. "That's impossible." But it wasn't impossible. It was true. Every piece of evidence pointed toward her. The fake documents, the anonymous leaks, the false accusations sent to the media. Everything led back to one person, Victoria. The woman who had once planned to marry Ethan. The woman who couldn't accept that he had moved on. The woman who wanted revenge. When Ethan received the news, he remained silent for a long time. Too silent. I found him standing alone in his office, looking out at the New York skyline. His shoulders looked heavy, tired. "Ethan." He turned slowly. There was sadness in his eyes. Not anger. Not hatred. Just sadness. I trusted her once. My heart hurt for him. She wanted to destroy everything. I walked toward him. "No." He looked at me. She tried. I gently took his hand, but she failed. For the first time all day, a small smile appeared on his face. The final hearing. A week later, the truth finally came out. The investigation officially cleared Ethan of all accusations. Victoria and several corrupt executives were exposed. News channels that once attacked Ethan now praised him. His company's stock recovered. Investors returned. The scandal was over. Finally, for the first time in months, Ethan was free. But something surprising happened. Instead of celebrating with business partners, instead of attending press conferences, instead of talking to reporters, he came directly to the hospital. To me. I had just finished a long shift when I saw him waiting outside, wearing a simple black suit, holding a single white rose. My heart immediately started racing. The moment our eyes met, I knew something was different. Very different. He looked nervous. Actually nervous. And Ethan Blackwood never got nervous. "What is it?" I asked softly. He smiled. "Come with me." Central Park. The sun was beginning to set. Golden light covered everything. Families walked nearby. Children laughed. Birds flew overhead. It felt peaceful. Perfect. Ethan led me to a quiet spot beside a beautiful lake. Then he stopped walking and turned toward me. His hands were shaking slightly. That was when my heart skipped a beat, because I suddenly realized what was happening. "Ethan." He smiled. The kind of smile that made me fall in love with him. "Emma Parker." My eyes filled with tears. "You came into my life when I wasn't looking for love." My heart pounded. "You saw me when nobody else did." Tears rolled down my cheeks. "You stayed when things became difficult." His voice cracked. "You believed in me when the rest of the world doubted me." I could barely breathe. Then something happened that made the entire world disappear. Ethan slowly dropped to one knee and pulled out a small velvet box. People around us gasped, but I didn't hear them. I only saw him. Only Ethan. The man I loved. The man who had completely changed my life. He opened the box. Inside was the most beautiful ring I had ever seen. But honestly, I didn't care about the ring, because I was already looking at everything I wanted. Him. "Emma." His voice trembled. "I love you." My tears fell faster. "I love your smile." A tear escaped his eye. "I love your heart." I covered my mouth, trying not to cry, failing completely. "I love the way you make every day better." The entire world seemed to stop. And then he asked the question that changed everything. "Will you marry me?" For a second, I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then I laughed through my tears and nodded repeatedly. "Yes." Ethan smiled. The biggest smile I had ever seen. "Yes. Yes." I cried. "Of course yes." The crowd around us burst into applause. But neither of us noticed. Because Ethan stood up and immediately pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly, like he never wanted to let go. And honestly, I never wanted him to. Then he kissed me. Softly, tenderly, lovingly. The kiss wasn't about passion. It was about promises, about trust, about choosing each other. Every single day. 1 year later, the wedding took place on a beautiful spring afternoon. Friends, family, laughter, music, love. Everything felt magical. As I walked down the aisle, Ethan couldn't stop smiling. And when I reached him, he whispered something that made my heart melt. I'd marry you 1,000 times. Tears filled my eyes again. Good, I whispered back. Because I'd say yes every single time. Epilogue. People often ask how a nurse fell in love with a billionaire. They expect some dramatic answer. But the truth is much simpler. I didn't fall in love with his money. I fell in love with the man who brought flowers to a hospital. The man who held my hand when I was scared. The man who never stopped choosing me. And Ethan didn't fall in love with a nurse. He fell in love with the woman who stayed when life became difficult. The woman who believed in him. The woman who became his home. And that's how our story began. Not with money. Not with fame. Not with power. But with two hearts finding each other when neither expected it. And from that moment on, we lived happily ever after. Moral. True love isn't about wealth or status. It's about finding someone who stands beside you when life becomes difficult, and choosing each other every day.